I, female 32, gave birth to my son 5 weeks ago. My husband's mom has been camping in the living room ever since, inviting people over, making a mess in the house, etc. I said nothing because if I opened my mouth, my husband would start scolding me, saying his mom was there to help and I should be grateful. So what I did was ignore her and focus on my son. I handle feeding, diaper change, cleaning and wiping. I only get a few hours of sleep, so my husband's mom isn't really helping with the baby. But I thought to myself, well, at least she cooks for us. Last night I was in the bedroom breastfeeding my son. I knew I was late for dinner, but I thought my husband and his mom had saved a plate for me. Once I got done with my son, I walked out the room and saw my husband and his mom sitting watching TV. I asked about dinner, and my husband said it was probably on the stove. As I walked towards the kitchen, his mom loudly said she hadn't saved me any food. I was absolutely shocked. I asked her why, and she simply said, "Well, we didn't see you at the dinner table, so I thought you weren't hungry." Finally, I lost it and yelled that I was feeding my son. Of course I was hungry, and I was actually starving. She shrugged her shoulders and said it wasn't her fault, I didn't show up for dinner. But she knew damn well that I was with my son and hadn't eaten a thing in hours. My husband asked me not to raise my voice at his mom, but I told him that he saw what happened and didn't think about me being hungry and needing food. He lashed out asking what I wanted him to do, and I said, "I don't know, maybe save some food for me." She defended him, saying it was selfish of me to scold him for eating his dinner after working long hours at the department. An argument ensued, and I went inside the bedroom, packed a small bag for my son and me, and called my brother to come to take me to Mom's house. My husband blew up at me as I was making my way out. We argued at the door, and he told me that what I was doing was uncalled for and childish. I told him I couldn't take his mom anymore. He said I should be ashamed of myself for talking about her like that after she'd put her life on pause so she could help me out. My brother came and I got into the car and left. He picked some food up for me on the way and I ate like a hungry bear. My husband never stopped calling though. In his last text he called me nuts and demanded I return today. But I said that I miss my mom, that I liked it here in her clean home with healthy food and would like to stay for a while. He's lost it and got his family involved, accusing me of keeping his son away from him and punishing me over food. Not the idiot. How exactly is your mother-in-law's cooking helping if she doesn't even cook enough for all three of you? Tell him you'll return when his mother is gone, and you get a true apology from both of them. Otherwise, leave your son with his mother and go get the rest of your things. A man that doesn't even ensure that his breastfeeding wife eats isn't worth staying with. What a piece of work, both of them. I can't imagine a woman alive who isn't aware that a breastfeeding new mother would be hungry. You weren't at dinner? What the heck? I'd be throwing crap at that point. Get the support you and your child need. This made my blood boil. You have a husband problem, not a mother-in-law problem. You married a mama's boy. The last thing you need after having a baby is an inconsiderate house guest that makes a mess and invites people over. Oh, but at least she cooks for us. She cooked for her son. His mom is taking care of her baby. Nothing she's done has been a benefit to you. Stay where you are. It would help if you had support right now, not someone stressing you out. OP, unfortunately, it seems like he doesn't want to be a parent and partner. He wants to be coddled like a child. I would consider all your options because at this point, he is neglecting you and his child, and if this behavior doesn't change, it will become abusive. The fact that he doesn't see it is a huge red flag. He is not being supportive and is actively undermining you. I'd seriously divorce him. He can work and pay child support since he feels like that's all he needs to contribute. I, female 28, recently moved into a new neighbourhood. All my neighbours are lovely, especially my next door neighbour, 37 male, bless his heart, wink wink. He's married and has 2 kids. I noticed that he's been looking towards my house for a while. So far I caught him doing it twice. He's had his binoculars with him and was looking at my living room. I hate confrontation, so I closed the curtains and went about my day, but it started escalating. The other day he was peeking at my backyard where I was sitting from his balcony, and his binoculars fell into my backyard. I looked up and he was gone. He knew that I'd seen him. I took the binoculars and put them inside. In the evening he knocked on my door asking how I was and whatnot. I rolled my eyes but kept it civil. He then brought up the binoculars and said, "They must have fallen in your backyard earlier today." I was like, wonder how that happened. And he said something about his kids probably messing with them and asked if I could go get them for him. I said I have them, but I won't give them to him unless his wife comes and gets them herself. He looked at me, shocked and angry, and said that these binoculars were his, and they were special because he had them from when he was in the military, and said that his wife had nothing to do with this. I told him that I would return them once his wife showed up and asked for them. All he had to do is send her over. He threw a fit, saying he can't send her because then she'll misunderstand the situation. I told him there was no misunderstanding if their kids were the ones using the binoculars, and insisted I won't give them back until his wife got them. We got into an argument, but he kept his voice as low as possible and then left looking furious. He's been complaining about me wanting to stir drama and demanding I return his binoculars to him and leave his wife out of it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Wow. Honestly, good for you to stand your ground on it. The whole situation is creepy as heck. Alternatively, to avoid potentially the police getting involved, you could wait till he's not at home and take them to the wife yourself. You could even describe her husband's behaviour. Make this moron squirm. Your neighbour is a creep. He knows he's doing something wrong and he's trying to get away with it. I'm sure other neighbours have noticed. If you see Creepy's wife, see if you can talk to her. I wouldn't be surprised if he were caught peeping on other neighbours in the past. That may be why his wife will misunderstand the situation. Get some cameras and close the curtains facing their house. Then, if he's watching you in the yard again, snap a photo and call the cops. Better yet, take the binoculars to the police station and return them there. Let them know you're uncomfortable with his voyeuristic behaviour and want to avoid personal contact. Let the police handle it as they wish. If they end up visiting or contacting him, that might discourage him. It might also let his wife know of the situation in a way that doesn't directly involve you. If the situation escalates, you also have a record of his behaviour. Unfortunately, unless he was entering your private property to spy on you, there's nothing you can do about it in terms of law enforcement. Looking at, recording anything within view of your own or public property is perfectly legal, even with devices to assist like binoculars or cameras. Makes people uncomfortable and often causes confrontation, but it is legal. If you don't want to be seen or recorded, it's up to you to block others' views of you. My friend, 25 female, is constantly late for everything. Be it work-related or fun activities, she will always be at least 15 or 20 minutes late. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a car, so I, 25 male, will often pick her up from her house. I work at a university and she's a PhD student there, and her place is on the way for me. The last time I offered her a ride to work, she ended up being 20 minutes late after I'd already arrived at her place. Because of that, I ended up being late for work. She's always very apologetic about her lateness, but never changes. This week, she was supposed to give a seminar at the university, which is a crucial part of her PhD program. She asked me if I could give her a ride to work that day. I told her sure, but I was picking her up at 8 a.m. and she must be there precisely at 8 a.m., not a minute later. She chuckled, but I told her I wasn't joking, and she promised she would be there. The morning of her seminar, I drove to her place and got there at 7:55 and texted her that I was there, and she told me she would be out in just a minute. At 8 o'clock, there was no indication that she would come out, and she didn't text anything, so at 8:01, I drove off. At around 8:20, she called me asking me where I was. I told her I was at work and that I wasn't joking when I told her that she had to be ready that minute. She started screaming and crying over the phone and told me that she was having a hard time that morning and couldn't be ready right at 8 a.m. She then begged me to come back to pick her up, as her seminar was at 9 a.m, and she needed to be at the school before then. I could have done it quickly enough to pick her up and drop her off without affecting my work, but I decided I didn't want to do that and I told her I wouldn't. She was crying and hyperventilating at that point. She said she'd promised she'd never be late for anything else again and re-emphasised that this seminar was crucial for her PhD and that she absolutely could not miss it without severe consequences. I responded, "Oh well," and hung up. I then went about my day at work normally. I feel like I could have gone back and picked her up in this scenario since it wouldn't have been detrimental to me, and at the same time this was something very important for her. On the other hand, I feel like this should be a wake-up call for her chronic lateness. So, am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. You warned her. She also had 40 minutes to make other arrangements even after all her procrastination. Why didn't she just call an Uber or taxi? If it was that important, she had other options available to her. She probably has a super low score on Uber for being late. Clearly, she showed up at 8:20 and expected OP to wait for her like a chauffeur, idly. It's so disrespectful of OP's time. Frankly, I'd be okay with not having this friend. Doing something like this is the only way some people will ever learn. Maybe next time she has to be somewhere, she'll be more respectful of other people's time. Agree, and I will die on this hill. Chronically late people drive me insane. It's inconsiderate as heck, and when you finally put your foot down and have boundaries, you are the idiot instead of them. Nope. I, male 38, have a daughter, Mabel, teen. I'm Mabel's sole parent. Her mother signed full custody over to me and hasn't been in the picture since our daughter was 1. Being a single dad hasn't been easy, but I'm married to my wife of 2 years, Sarah, female 39. Sarah has 2 children, teen female and tween male from a previous relationship. Before we moved in together, we agreed that we wouldn't discipline each other's biological children to prevent any resentment, considering their ages when we got together. For the past couple of weeks, Mabel has been begging me to let her dye her hair purple. I've told Mabel no because unnatural hair colours are against her school's rules. If she comes into school with purple hair, they will keep sending her home until it's a natural colour again. This happened to one of my friend's children. This would result in Mabel missing classes, and I just don't want to risk it. I tried to compromise and told Mabel we could do a temporary wash-in, wash-out purple dye over the Christmas holidays, but she's very impatient. Mabel has now been asking to change schools as there's another school in our area that allows unnatural hair colours. Once again, I told Mabel no. First, it's petty, but Mabel attends the same secondary school as her step-siblings. We would have to leave the house early to get them all to school on time. Secondly, the school that Mabel wants to change to has a very, very poor reputation for not teaching the students anything and letting them get away with murder. We live in a small town and word spreads. Thirdly, we've had no problems with Mabel's current school. Her grades are decent, the teachers are good at what they do, and Mabel has many friends there. In addition, Mabel has expressed no other reason for changing schools other than wanting to dye her hair. I tried to explain to Mabel that her education is more important than this, but she insisted that she should be able to look how she wants. Mabel has been complaining about how unfair I am to Sarah. Finally, Sarah brought it up privately and suggested I let my daughter change schools. She said her autonomy and self-expression are essential and that Mabel should get to make some choices for herself. I shut it down and said I'm not letting Mabel change schools just so she can dye her hair. Sarah said I'm being unreasonable and controlling. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It's called parenting for the simple reason that you have to parent, and sometimes that means saying no. Changing schools over this is ridiculous. It feels like the end of the world to her, but she's a teen. Get some clip-ins, sprays and hair chalk for the weekends. If she wants crazy nail polish or temporary tattoos, cool, if they're off or hidden for school. Maybe look at getting some fun wigs. She might like learning how to dye them herself. Everyone's the idiot here. Your daughter doesn't feel validated. She is lacking an outlet for self-expression. She's literally asking for it. There may be some underlying reasons that she isn't talking to you about and is using the hair colour change as a reason to move. Maybe ask her if there's anything else or if Sarah knows something you don't. My 34 male father, 56, just had a baby with his girlfriend. I get along really well with his girlfriend. She's cool and laid back and babysits my daughter, tween, for me. So this has nothing to do with me not liking his girlfriend or my new baby sister. But of course I love my new sister. Here's the problem. My dad insists on calling my new baby, emphasis on baby, sister, my daughter's aunt. And she doesn't like it. She's at that age where she's starting to want to feel grown up, and she hates when my dad says stuff like, "Say hi to auntie, sister's name." I've asked my dad repeatedly not to do this in front of my daughter. I also asked his girlfriend and she didn't have a problem with it. My dad insists that his daughter is my daughter's aunt. Technically true, so that's how he needs to refer to her as my daughter and how my daughter should refer to her even. We've been fighting about it and he eventually snapped at me and told me I couldn't tell him what to call his own baby. I mean, yes, technically, but come on. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I think your daughter understands that the baby is technically her aunt, but it's just bizarre to try to enforce this in your daily life. Your dad's being very weird here. Why does he feel the need to make a kid call an infant an aunt? That said, he's 56 with a newborn, so he has bigger issues, to be honest. Just going to offer a compromise. Would you and your daughter feel comfortable referring to her as bad auntie? Because I got a bad feeling that your sister has been neglecting her aunt's duties, like Christmas gifts or showing up for your daughter's birthdays, etc. Also, is her aunt very demanding, insisting on diaper changes and nap times? I don't mean to be rude, but she isn't a very good aunt from the sounds of things. Yeah, boycott auntie. This is hilarious to me, but I can guarantee some people, Dad, aren't going to get the sarcasm. LOL. Your dad is probably being weird about this because he wants the world, and you, to affirm that there's nothing at all odd about him having a new baby with a girlfriend who's probably close to your age. Or he's just a jerk who doesn't care about your daughter.